Hi, thanks so much for checking out my video here and coming back to my channel. My name is Tarsha Wingers. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and certified alcohol and drug counselor. Our topic today is going to be trauma. I want to talk a little bit about vicarious trauma, also known as secondary trauma. Before we do that, I always say in every video, the purposes of these videos are intended to be of educational value. They're not intended for you to diagnose and treat yourself independently. Please consult your own behavioral health professional. So with that being said, let's jump into our content today. I wanted to take some time and talk about trauma today with everything that's going on in the world right now, and particularly a lot of focus and attention, rightfully so, being given to George Floyd and the his murder that was videotaped and recorded and being shared numerous times through multiple media platforms. I think it's appropriate that we take some time and we just talk about the behavioral health aspects that is also at play here, and which is really what led me just to talk about trauma and particularly vicarious or secondary trauma. So with that, let's talk about what is trauma. What's a good working definition? As you know, if you watched any of my other videos, I try to keep things pretty simple. You know, my mom always said, make it plain, keep it simple, people understand. So there's no need to muddle this topic. Trauma is a very big topic within itself in the world of behavioral health. So for the purposes today, I'll try to keep things very simplistic. And as you go out and maybe if you research more, you'll notice that there's various definitions and levels and of trauma. So just keep that in mind, that this video is very just kind of informational and kind of a trauma one-on-one, if you will. So what's a good definition of trauma? Let's start with just laying out. Trauma is ultimately defined by an event that happens in an individual's life that then causes a disturbance to their daily functioning thereafter. So sometimes trauma can be something, what one person may experience may cause a traumatic experience for them, but for another person it may not. Often things that we see that may evoke a traumatic experience in a person could be a car accident. It could be the death of a loved one that maybe perhaps it was a death that happened over an extended period of time. Other good examples of traumatic experiences for individuals often is domestic violence or partner violence. Other things are refugee trauma, terrorists and violence, natural disasters, hurricanes, tornadoes, things like that just rip apart the land, multiple deaths, casualties. Other things that we equate for individuals that evoke trauma in their lives includes bullying, physical abuse, emotional abuse. So essentially, when we talk about trauma in a real simple way, if something happens in your life and it leaves you in a place where you're not the same, and you're not the same but in a bad way, it's causing you distress in your normal daily functioning, that would mean that situation has caused some trauma, and there's some things that you probably need to work on to address or work through so that you can be healed and you can live a better quality of life. So laying out that definition of trauma, we know that something's happened, it's left you feeling some kind of way, as my kids always tell me, but you're not feeling well about it. Let's talk a little bit about what vicarious trauma is, because it's that, but it's also kind of a little different in the sense that you may not have experienced it firsthand. So, vicarious trauma or secondary trauma, which is what it's also known as, is oftentimes the indirect exposure or firsthand account of an experience that causes you to have distress in your personal life. So again, when we talk about the recent video of George Floyd being released, that in me evoked secondary trauma. I wasn't there. I didn't experience it as if I were standing there, but through the video, that was my indirect way of being a part of that situation, being a part of that experience. So oftentimes there are a lot of things that happen in all of our lives that evoke secondary trauma, also known as vicarious trauma. You are affected by somebody else's situation, so much so that it causes you to have distress in your normal life. And how will we know if something's causing us distress? Maybe you're not someone who has a background in behavioral health, and you're like, I've seen these videos or other things in my life that have happened, and I don't know if that's caused me to have to experience any secondhand trauma or vicarious trauma. So some of the common warning signs when we talk about trauma or indirect trauma or vicarious trauma is that sense of hopelessness, helplessness, oftentimes set in for individuals. You'll also see isolation be one of the common symptoms or signs that you may recognize in yourself or a loved one. You also see sometimes sleep disturbance, and a lot of times sleep disturbance is often a common symptom in a lot of behavioral health symptoms, because just think about it. If your sleep is off, what else is going to be off? If you're not sleeping well, then your mood is off. If you're not sleeping well, your ability to concentrate is going to be off. Again, when we talk about that mood being off, either you're going to be short with people, or you're going to feel restless and tired, where you also are wanting to sleep more, and still waking up restless because you're not being able to obtain or achieve that REM level of sleep. That's that restorative brain healing sleep. Other signs of vicarious trauma we often see is that fatigue. We also are going to see anxiety start to feel in. And this is a really hard topic as we try to differentiate between these things, because right now with the murder of George Floyd, a lot of these things that you may be experiencing are grounded in truth. But anytime I've worked with anyone in a behavioral health setting, most of what an individual is sharing or they feel or they believe is grounded in a level of truth. Even if it's something that seems far-fetched and it's like that could never happen, there is a level of truth that's involved in it. So it's hard to say, well, I think I'm experiencing vicarious trauma. I feel anxious. I feel hopeless. I feel helpless about this situation, because that's kind of what we're seeing in our society right now, where maybe these changes are never going to come. Maybe these things aren't going to get better. But we have to be hopeful, though. We also have to know that you can make change. You can generate positive things in your life. So we don't want to get stuck in that thought process. So we don't want to get stuck in that mindset just in general. So if you're feeling that way, you're experiencing a couple of these things I've talked about, you may be experiencing vicarious trauma, or you may just be experiencing some frustration and a difficult time processing through the situations that's happening as well. So kind of what do we do with all of this? We talked about trauma. I think I may have, this may have caused trauma in me. Maybe I'm experiencing some vicarious trauma. I'm not sleeping. I'm irritable. I'm angry. I'm hopeless. What do I do with this? It's a great question. What do we do with it? I always advise anyone, the number one thing that can help you most is to acknowledge that you're having it. If you're experiencing these things, if you're having these thoughts, then the first thing you do is like, call it what it is. I think I'm experiencing trauma. I'm upset. I'm angry. This has evoked something in me. But you also have to notice that this has caused a disturbance to my daily functioning. Maybe I'm someone who was always happy, helpful, social, and now I'm just withdrawn and isolative. You have to ask yourself, to some degree, is that the quality of life you want to have? Do you want to allow this situation to disrupt the life that you used to have, the way you used to live? Many of us will say no. And if you're saying no and you don't want that, then we want you to continue on to do some of these other things that's helpful to you. Those things would include practice good self-care. Take care of yourself. Limit your exposure to the things that's causing you to experience some of the trauma, or that's evoking, or always say, stirring that pot of those emotions and feelings you're having. Sometimes we have to limit ourselves on those things. You're watching CNN, you're watching the nightly news. Now you're tracking when in Wisconsin the National Guard came in over the weekend. You may have to limit your exposure to some of those things. Am I saying be naive and ignore the situation? No, but I'm also saying that you are in charge of maintaining your own mental health. If things are making it more difficult for you to stay well, then you have to limit that. Other things I'm going to suggest that you also spend time doing the things that bring you natural joy. I say laugh, laugh, laugh. that releases natural good, feel good endorphins in your body. We want you to have that. Also take time to recognize and do things that may also help you feel grounded and reconnected, like mindfulness, meditation, prayer, whatever those things or all of those things may be for you. If you've tried some of those things, you're still struggling, there is no harm in reaching out to a behavioral health professional and just sharing what you're feeling, talking with someone about that so that you can process through it, deal with it. And then once you've done some of those things and you're feeling in a place where you're better, you're feeling well, because sick people can't help sick people. When you're feeling well and you feel better, then maybe you can take on more to get out there and evoke change and bring about justice for the unjust and the unjust situations that are happening in our world today. But first, take care of yourself. Know where you are in terms of your own mental health. Know what you can and can't do. Know your limits, and also know when you need to reach out and get support. I hope you found this video helpful. These were your mental health minutes today, talking a little bit about trauma, vicarious trauma, the signs and things that you can do to stay well. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please click like, share, subscribe to my channel, but more importantly, share the content, have the conversations, and take care of yourself and do something nice for someone else. Thanks so much for checking out this video.